You're listening to Learning Leaders Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. On each episode, we sit down with key industry experts to discover more about what's happening in the world of learning and development, from current trends and insights to the most valuable lessons learned along the way. Join us for a fresh perspective on all things training and the best direction forward. Here's your host, Leanne Langford.
Hi, welcome to Learning Leaders Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help the learning leaders of tomorrow. I'm Leanne Langford, your host. I'm the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is an L&D contract staffing company where we like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us find the right consultant to start your project with confidence. I am really pleased today to introduce this week's guest. It's Adolph Escobedo, the Senior Director of Commercial Learning and Development at Vizient. Welcome, Adolph.
Hi, how are you?
We're happy to have you here. Can you share with our audience a 60-second overview of who you are and what you do?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So first off, good morning. And
Good morning.
I lead the Commercial Learning and Development Strategy at Vizient. It's the nation's largest healthcare performance improvement company. My focus right now is aligning workforce development with business strategy, particularly with the sales and commercial operations teams. What I find myself doing most often is delivering scalable and impactful learning experiences that elevate talent, enhance agility, and drive measurable business outcomes.
It sounds like an interesting job. I can't wait to hear some more of your thoughts here today. First thing I want to know is, how did you find yourself in learning and development? What first attracted you?
That's a great question, because I had to think about like how long I've been doing this, and I won't give you that because it'll be like multiple decades, but I'll say it this way. I've kind of always been passionate about unlocking people's potential. And early on in the military, I discovered that I had somewhat of an innate ability for coaching and development. And then L&D kind of gave me that channel that into like providing really good business impact, helping individuals grow while supporting broader goals of the organization.
So a military background, that's the kind of the masters of training, aren't they?
They followed this, and I continue to use it now. I just kind of translated it into, the corporate America, but it's kind of a see one, do one, teach one approach. It sounds so simplistic, but if you can operate that way and you have learners that embrace the opportunity to develop a new skill or really become proficient in what they're supposed to be doing every day, the repetition of doing it every day just adds to that reinforcement. And you really can ramp people up very quickly with a high level of proficiency. And really important is confidence. They'll know that they know how to do their job, and they can continue to improve their effectiveness and efficiency every day.
Well, it makes me feel great because they need to know how to do their job and not hesitate.
Right. I
Right.
agree.
So what are the most impactful changes you've seen in learning and development in, say, the last 5 years?
5 years, a lot has happened in 5 years, right? I think the way that you ask the question really sets the tone for understanding like what has happened, right? When you say the most impactful changes and then you put the time frame of 5 years, I look back and think a lot has happened, right? First off, I think the integration of data and performance analytics into the design of learning, because we've always had a lot of passionate people in the industry that were pushing that data story, right? So that we could show the value to an organization of what we do every day. By way of the people, the learners that we impact, by way of what they're doing and contributing every day to the organization. So I think most impactful, they're paying more attention now to the data and performance analytics. Then the tech evolution, right? Not just, AI has been around for a while, but it's gotten a lot of attention recently. And so these immersive platforms include AI coaching, on-demand learning, interactive simulations for real world environments. And now more than ever, I find my stakeholders really trying to understand how to leverage learning as a strategic lever. So we're really at a critical point, I believe now, and probably in the next couple of years for sure, but at a critical point to inform our stakeholders how what we do can help them either sustain their performance or accelerate it by delivering that value to them through some type of performance-based learning approach.
Those are some insightful changes.
Right. I agree. And it's just a cool time to be in learning, to be honest with you. I'm excited about it. I think it's great.
It is a cool time. I've been in learning 32 years, long time, and it is so much more impactful now in organizations. We used to be fighting just to get our voices heard, and now all of you have a seat at the table. You're actually, huge impact in the organization, and I think it's fantastic. Where do you see us going in the next 5 to 10 years in learning and development?
10 years almost feels like I'm looking 100, because it just the way that technology is really enabling what we do and accelerating how we get there. To think 10 years, I don't know, I'd almost need a crystal ball, but maybe 5, I could probably think about maybe in the next 5 years and maybe I'll be close. I won't be predicting the weather, but I might be kind of close in terms of the industry. So I would say, because we're starting to see this now, is like hyper personalized learning, right? We used to say like custom learning paths and all that, but even saying custom learning, it feels like it's more structured than what the environment is really asking for. So I say hyper personalized, meaning that the individual can truly pivot on a moment's notice on what they might need to know or think they need to know to be better at what they're doing. And I think that'll absolutely be powered by AI and this cool thing called predictive analytics, right? Has a machine learning background in there. I also think, embedded learning for real time in the flow of work consumption. I think that really is starting to take off specifically for sales and account management and sales support teams, because the customers or their clients are changing so quickly because their environments are changing. Those frontline teams need to be able to quickly pivot, grab something to actually introduce a concept to themselves, and then be comfortable and confident enough to go back to their client or customer and say, well, maybe we should try this. So I think those two pieces are absolutely on the very short horizon for us. I think oftentimes we forget about cross-functional learning, and I'm starting to hear that quite often now. Really ensuring that even though someone has a distinct role inside of an organization, giving them the opportunity to become aware of what the other parts of the business is doing, to the point where they can understand how they influence and impact those other parts of the business because of what they do or don't do, which is equally as important, which could give them that adapted skill building, right? It may not be something that they do every day, but when they interact with this other part of the business or this client, they'll have that skill set readily developing, or they can go back to a source and review and reinforce what they were taught before. I also think one of the biggest opportunities that we have now to get ahead of the game, or one of my old bosses used to say, get ahead of the ask. And that's really positioning L&D as a shared business responsibility, right? So oftentimes we find ourselves getting cornered into almost feeling like an order taker, like waiting for the next project. But I think if we can take those first 3, right, that I mentioned, the hyper personalized learning, use AI predictive analytics, and have those assets embedded in the real workflow of an individual and the flow of work of an individual, and then giving them that opportunity to learn outside of their role to better inform what they do and why they do it. I think that type of approach positions L&D as that trusted advisor across the business, right? And we can do that proactively, by the way, right? We start sharing, these are things that we're doing for this other part. If it's something you'd like to be included in or take advantage of, don't hesitate to ask. I think we need to take that on more often and proactively. And I think that'll help us in the next few years for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
So I was really enjoying your answer. I loved it. It was making me think of Dr. Keith Keating's book, and then you just almost said the title of it.
Yep.
It's like, I think we've read some of the same thing.
Yeah, we might have. I have had an opportunity to listen to Keith at an L10 conference a couple years back. Had an opportunity to meet him. I really enjoyed his talk, and got to participate in it. It was really cool. He's a good speaker, and I like his ideologies. I really do. I think he's spot on to what we need in a lot of places right now. Very forward thinking person. I enjoy him.
Great. I am a big fan as well. And I've actually had dinner with him. He's a really nice guy. So
What?
yeah,
I want to know how I get to that table.
I will tell you later. I don't want to put it out on the podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was. So who has been your most professional or most influential professional mentor in your career?
So I owe a lot of people credit for what they imparted, like gave me as a gift. And I know that sounds like wicked cliche, but I'm serious. I owe a lot of people credit for sharing just their experiences with me. So I'll say it this way, because I think it's fair, and any one of them that might potentially listen to this will feel like I acknowledged what they gave me. So because I really am grateful that I've had several over my lifetime. And in my lifetime, I include, the military was my very first job, and I bounced around quite a bit over the tenure of that. But even after, just some really impactful people that really important to me, they model, right? Because I find myself looking for that. They modeled the balance of like strategic clarity, authenticity, not just in their leadership, but about themselves, right? And then really pushed that importance of just be comfortable with not knowing everything about whatever it is someone is asking you to do. Just be comfortable with the information that they're able to give you at the time. And what they overall, like all of them, some of them I call chief, even though they've never spent a day in the military, but it's a sign of respect just for my upbringing in the military. But, and some of them will know who I'm talking about right away when I say that, but they taught me the power of listening, right? Oftentimes we get ahead of ourselves and we want to start solutioning or start thinking of how can we operationalize that ask into a learning event or asset or deliverable. And you got to slow down. The power of listening ensures that we are leading with purpose, and then really focusing our efforts to developing others through trust, not direction, because all of us will agree, right? There's a difference between a manager and a leader. And that's what they taught me, is that clear difference. And that approach, honestly, it absolutely affects me every day. I almost have from shoulder to shoulder. I feel like sometimes I have them all the way across, and they're always trying to give me some new piece of information or advice or reminding me of, we showed you that. And there's like a really cool group of people that I wish I could be better connected with on a daily basis, because they were so influential. But there's a lot of them out there, and I just have to take the opportunity to say thank you. Just thank you, because you're in here for sure. But more importantly, right, they're with me every day. So, and they're just really cool people, authentic and stuff. So,
It sounds like you've been very fortunate with mentors, but also that you were very open to hearing and learning from your mentors.
sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, when I may not have listened to what they were saying at the moment because, I thought I knew better. But man, it's always that, almost euphoric, like, I think I've heard something about this before, and then you realize, and sometimes you get the opportunity to go back and say thank you, and sometimes you don't, and that's a life lesson right there, right? When somebody gives you something of value, say thank you immediately. So you may not have the opportunity to do that later, but I agree with you. I'm absolutely grateful that in those instances, I realized what I was getting, and if I said thank you immediately, that was different than sometimes it took me a minute.
I I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm a big proponent of mentoring. First having a mentor as you're coming up, and then once you have all of this, mentor someone else, and
Oh,
because it's so hard to make it into this space. Having a mentor makes a lot of difference.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, what do you think is one of the most important skills today that you look for?
Mm. Okay, I'm going to tie it back to something I said in the last question because it might surprise some that that that'll listen to this, but it's actually not a technical skill that any person would demonstrate through like a deliverable, right? Like they design something and give it to me or to the stakeholder. It's that internal ability that shows up in how we interact, how we design stuff, and how we approach new work and information. And what I'm saying is it's that being comfortable with ambiguity, that not having all the information at that one moment when somebody asks you to start something or start thinking of an approach, get creative. What do you think could be possible with this? Now, even before COVID, right, this was actually starting to surface because I was seeing it. But I'm sure all of us would agree that COVID like exacerbated or accelerated a lot of different things that we may not have been paying attention to before. But the pandemic almost made this skill, if we're going to call it that, really essential. Suddenly, right, we were required to all of a sudden confidently respond with limited information or too limited information, and knowing quite clearly, right, that it might change in the next hour. We were seeing that play out on TV all the time, right? Or most certainly in the next few days, right? You were already heads down and you were working on something and then you had to pivot. But since then, though, that age old adage, and, the only constant is change has never really felt more real. And it still continues to be that way. I feel it every day, right? Now, many of us have heard in some of our conversations, we've heard a lot of different executives quote that Jack Welch, if the I might get it wrong, so I'm going to try it. If the pace of change outside of your organization is more than the change happening within, then stagnation is absolutely inevitable. So you think of that and put that in context and you think, okay, well, if the change is happening that much, that fast, then whatever information I get right now very well might not be the end all. And you have to be comfortable with that. So being comfortable with that means that you're accepting that you won't always have all the information or even clear direction from either your boss or your boss's boss or the stakeholder that's asking you to do something. So instead, I really challenge people, just focus on getting started, right? Put together the information that you do have and create something that you can put in front of that stakeholder or that boss, or the business, right? And give them an opportunity to react to it because they may have changed, right? They may have gotten new information since that time that they asked you to start on something. But I really believe that's how you start to earn their trust. And you almost become a facilitator of progress, right? Because you're moving alongside that information as it changes. So you demonstrate something that is important to these stakeholders and leaders and businesses that, hey, I'm adaptable. I'm okay with changes in direction. I'll continue to pivot and continue to try to reach that benchmark that you set for me or that you're asking for. I'm agile. And above all, I'm versatile, right? And I'm innovative, because as you give me more information, I can become, I can change my level of perspective. I can get more creative, or, what I didn't think I could do with the information that you gave me an hour ago. Now with this new piece, I might be able to. So all those things turn into you being a trusted advisor. And I know that that's probably a buzzword that all of us hear, and it might be played out to some, but I really do find that even in the last 15 years, trusted advisor is still really important to the business. They look for that, and it doesn't have to be a team. It can absolutely be an individual within a team that just demonstrates these qualities and truly meets them where they are, and knowing very well that an hour from now, they're going to be in a different position, and that's okay. We have to walk alongside them. So ambiguity, being comfortable with that, I would absolutely say is what I look for the most. Are you comfortable with that? And you'll know, right? Because somebody might say, oh, yeah, for sure. But you'll know really quickly. Your mannerisms change, the way you approach work change. And sometimes none of us can hide the emotion on our face, right? So work that muscle so that it shows in your work every day, and people will lean on that and look for that, and you, for sure.
I think that's a great answer. Dealing with ambiguity is definitely something we have to do today. And I don't think you're still in L&D today if you can't, because as you mentioned, we've got, I call it BC before COVID, DC during COVID. And now we're in.
I love that.
And you just have to, everything is just changing so quickly now. If you can't keep up with it, if you can't just deal with, okay, well, we were going this way yesterday, but today we're going this way.
Yeah, truly. Right. And that can happen in an hour. It could happen 3 weeks into the build, which, I've wanted to too, right? I've wanted to just throw my papers in the air sometimes, be like, come on, right? But, and that happens, and that's natural, and that's okay, right? To settle down though and think, okay, well, what do I have now that I didn't have before that can help me make this better, that might help me go faster? Think of that way, right? And ultimately help me deliver something that they will appreciate fully, right? Sometimes it's not, it's not real in today's environment to think that you'll have every bit of information that you need to move forward. Unless you can design something in an hour, maybe, right? But then tomorrow morning you walk in and they're like, okay, that was great for yesterday, but today is different. So.
Yeah, we're definitely moving at the speed of light today with churning out. So let's shift gears a little bit now. Where do you get your industry news and information?
I really like, and I've had this one for a while. It's called Talent Development, TD, right? It's one of the things that ATD used to put out, but I like that. Keeps me connected to what I would just say keeps me connected to the root of L&D, right? The grassroots. Oftentimes you can find some of those topics still being talked about in local chapters of ATD as well. Chief Learning Officer magazine, the CLO magazine, I really like that as well. So if I think of ATD, that gives me all the information local, right? Grassroots for learning and development. The CLO magazine gives me that higher level of information. Sometimes it gives me a peek into what's coming too, right? And by way of the business asking for it, the industry's asking for it. It may not be something that TD captures or provides me, but a new one that I really enjoy, and I wish I would have known about it when I was actually in med device and life sciences, is L10. That was where I had met Dr. Keating, and that's Life Sciences Trainers and Education Network, L10. That's a really good one. And then because I'm a data geek, right, I really enjoy dashboards and not just in my industry, healthcare, but in other industries as well. I always look to Gartner. They really do provide a lot of insightful information. Sometimes they're IT heavy, but if you're in that part of if you're in that industry, I mean, you'll have buckets of data to comb through all the time. And I just do my best to stay connected to my professional network. Sometimes, right, people are being really bold and they're trying technologies in new ways that maybe even the vendor hadn't thought of. And that's just really cool. One, to hear about, and two, to like learn why they tried that and can the platform really sustain it long term? But two, it just expands my thought process of what's plausible. And when we share things like that, I gotta say this, because it's really, when we share things like that in our professional networks, we actually raise our collective IQ as a group. Like we do. So if you're doing something cool, share it, man. You might not always get, an invitation to do a podcast or something, or get featured in one of these magazines, but you know what? Your peers are going to appreciate it. And before you know it, it'll go viral. And then who knows, then you will get an opportunity to get, to do something like this, a podcast or something, which is really cool. But
yeah, it's, those are some good resources for sure. And so it's a lot harder to keep up today than it was. 30 years ago, I was getting my news via snail mail. I mean, that's
man, I miss those days sometimes.
Yes, everything's a little slower. But now I feel like you kind of have to like be in the matrix and plug in to just download it all.
Truly, right? Like the cliff notes for all those pieces. I miss getting them in the mail, because I have probably banker's boxes. I know at least 2 or maybe 3 where I have these magazines that they used to send us, and I have them highlighted and tabbed. Because some of the information was just so powerful, and I didn't need it at that moment, but it was close to something I was doing or something I wanted to try. And so I would save it. I know it drives my wife crazy that I have those in the shop, but I at least 3 banker's boxes I know of, just articles and magazines and stuff that I still reference. So don't think you just put it in there and you leave it. I'm still out there opening up boxes and finding these pieces, because they give us that leap, right? So we're not starting from scratch. You can actually, jump from somebody else's work and make it your own. And as long as we give credit, right? Give credit where credit is due, for sure. But
Yeah, no, it's, I agree with you. And it used to drive my ex-husband crazy, but I'm like, our content, a lot of it's evergreen, what was true 10 years ago is still true today. So you can't throw it out. You're going to need it. So,
yeah, 100%. Absolutely 100%.
yes. Last question, and this is more of a personal one. I love to find out what one book you would recommend to learning leaders.
The first one is called the Accelerated Learning Field Book by Lou Russell. I gotta be honest, I didn't even encounter this book until I got out of the military. So that would have been like 2006, my first job. Somebody handed it to me, and there was a class at the local community college that taught it and really enabled me to like dive deep in it. It was absolutely informative. I still use the approach to the activities today. It reframed how I think about adult learning. I thought I knew about adult learning from the way that I used to train in the military, but it was absolutely about like relevance, engagement, connection, and speed to outcomes. And that's what corporate wants. They want that. They want it yesterday, and they want the people to be doing that behavior consistently tomorrow, right? Like they want it that fast. And so I like that book. The next one I didn't actually get introduced to until 2009, and it's called the Minto Pyramid Principle by Barbara Minto. There's a story behind how I came across this one, but that's for a whole other time. But I absolutely tell you, it changed the way that I communicate, full stop. Not just it verbally, but writing a proposal, an email, the way that I design content, text content on a slide. It was once known as the McKinsey playbook, the McKinsey consultant playbook. Applying the principles in the book, along with the next one that I'll talk about, absolutely had me, I believe, right, gave me success in the 5 years that I had my own consulting firm. And then as an L&D person, if you're a leader, I say you have to be comfortable with marketing. And I really like Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's fast. I mean, you'll read it and you won't put it down because it's a story, clearly. But fast, it's practical, a ton of insights. And I really like it because it puts marketing and storytelling together. Absolutely easy to apply. You'll find it, take a read. You'll find that you'll be doing the wireframes in general communications, but it tells a story, and people like storytelling. They like reading it. And it's absolutely been in my professional library for almost a decade now. And I still reference it quite often. In fact, I referenced it earlier this week. It's a really good book.
Well, thank you for those. I now have a couple more books to read. I'm a big reader, and I have Audible, and when I'm walking the dog or doing, in the car, I've got a book going all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very helpful, and to me, it's a really fast way to get through these business books. And then when I get to something that I really want to dig in on that, then I order the hard copy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I gotta try. Recently I've been hearing about these audibles. I mean, I don't know. I gotta give it a shot. Yeah. I hear great things about it. Yeah.
It's great if you have a commute, which not everybody does, but it's great for that. And again,
Yeah.
when we walk the dog, that's a great thing for me to be listening to while we walk.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
Well, you have been a wonderful guest, and you've given us a lot of great insights. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
As our thank you to you, our charity here at Training Pros is we plant trees all over the world. We've planted
Oh,
5,000 trees to date, and I'd like to plant 5 trees in your name.
that's so cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's one of the few ways we can think of to say thank you to you.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
So that's it for this week's episode of Learning Leader Spotlight. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week to hear from another learning leader.
This episode is brought to you by Training Pros, the award-winning contract staffing agency that works exclusively with learning and development professionals to match the right consultants to client projects. If you're in corporate L&D and have more projects than people, let the industry practitioners at Training Pros provide you with the right L&D consultant to start your project with confidence. Find out how we make finding quality consultants easy by scheduling a consultation at www.trainingpros.com.